Welcome to the TREPX Podcast. TREP is short for entrepreneur. One of the most meaningful and rewarding, yet difficult challenges you can take on. The TREPX Podcast gives you actionable insights, real examples, and success X factors from experienced entrepreneurs as we are learning, living, and sharing in the exciting endeavor of entrepreneurship. Now here's your fellow entrepreneurial traveler and host, Micky Deming.
Hello, welcome to the TREPX Podcast. This is Micky Deming, and today I have an interview that is a little bit different, but very interesting. So for all the people listening to this episode, one thing that we have in common is we all have minds. We all are people who think, and our minds can sometimes be our greatest advocate, our greatest source of strength, and sometimes they can be our biggest negative, biggest downside. It's when we are in a positive mindset, in a growth mindset, in a open mindset, we seem to thrive. But when we're in a closed mindset, when we're in a negative mindset, nothing goes right, nothing happens. And that is so important. And I think most of us know that, but what most of us may not realize is that we can actually have control over that. That it's not just something that happens to us, that our mindset doesn't just happen and we just have to deal with it. It's something that we can actually be proactive about and kind of wire our psychology to work in a positive way. And so that's what this episode is about. I got a chance to talk to someone who really studies this stuff and researches this stuff. His name is Dr. HermanSJr, and so he is a doctor. He has studied strategic psychology for several years. So this is not just, think positive and things are good. This is research-backed stuff. And I had a great time talking to him because I am not an expert, and so it's fun to talk to an expert. And he shares some really great things about fear and about just how our mind and our psychological strategy can be reset. And it's very relevant, as we head into the new year and think about, New Year's resolutions and how do we follow through and how do we grow and how do we improve on where we are. Our psychological approach to that is so important. And so that's what we talk about in this interview. And it was fun. It was a lot of deep stuff, but I think stuff that is also practical and stuff that you can implement right away. So I am going to stop talking about it right now before I say something that is wrong, because Dr. HermanSJr is the one who's bringing the real truth. So I'm excited to share this with you. You can check him out, and he has a course on this stuff at his website. It's at drhermansjr.com, and you can see the link to that and more about this interview and all the notes at trepxgroup.com. So thanks a lot for joining, and please enjoy this interview with Dr. HermanSJr. Hello, Dr. HermanSJr. Welcome to the TREPX Podcast. How are you doing today?
Hey, Micky. I'm doing great. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm really excited about this conversation because it's nice to talk to a psychological professional, because the psychological topics related to entrepreneurship seem to come up a lot on this podcast because it's something people like to think about and talk about, even if they're not experts on it. So it's good to come to you. And I guess I'll start there. So for you, a lot of people get interested in this subject, but you've chosen to really dive deep into it. What led to you kind of making this your passion and really studying it so in depth?
Nerdism. I am a complete nerd in every sense of the definition. Since childhood, I have studied every possible subject I can get my hands on, and I truly mean that, from cryptology even to, cryonics, mathematics, everything I can possibly learn. I'm just a sucker for knowledge, basically. And I'm also a huge humanitarian since I was a child. And I believe very firmly in doing everything you can to help society, to help others, and to help advance society and others, including yourself, of course. So so it just made a lot of sense, just studying everything I could and my love for helping people. So getting into the depth of knowledge, as I've been fortunate to do since childhood, taking it and saying, hey, what can I do to make my life better? Constantly, again, in business and professional life and personal life. So that naturally in turn came to one day, hey, what can I do to help others?
Yeah, and it led you into psychology and a lot of that. And so one thing that I find very interesting, I think is a good place to start, is all over, your website and everything, there's a phrase that you put out there, psychological strategy. And I think just in that phrase kind of insinuates that we have the ability to take an approach, a strategic approach to our psychology, and it's not just something that's kind of predetermined. So can you talk about how do you approach that phrase? What does psychological strategy mean to you and how you approach it?
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. You made a good summary of it. Psychological strategy is a field that basically is using interdisciplinary thinking and methods to reset minds. Now, that is a sentence that encompasses a lot of different things, a lot of subconscious influence and resetting minds, whether it's your own, your targets, whatever it is. Now, just like you said, we're not predestined to live a certain life based on the mindset that we have forever. I mean, we do get a certain mindset based on our self-schema, our experience, our education, our environment and stuff. And most of the time, unfortunately, it is very negative, if not completely negative, but it's not your fault. You can see it, you can recognize it, and change that mindset, just like you can change your life, of course. But it is something that is extremely difficult to do. And unless you have the right tools to use, the right psychological tools, the right neuroscientific tools, you're really going to screw up or you're not going to make it. So psychological strategy focuses and really gives you in-depth details on the tactics you need to use, the tactics you must use in order for you to bypass that limited, debilitating mindset that you have that will only get you so far. Because just like any addict program, in order for you to become better, you have to first see that there's a problem and then believe that you can be better. Else, you're going to continue failing in the tactics and the efforts that you do throughout your entire life, whether it's in your business or your personal life.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's why entrepreneurs, I think, are drawn to this subject and why it comes up is because I think we all feel it where we know, like, when our mindset is in a certain state, good things tend to happen. When our mindset is in a negative state, bad things tend to happen. So can you expound on that a little bit more and go into, you said it's all about the tools and the tactics and how we can kind of reset our minds. What are some of those tools and tactics?
Some of those tools and tactics to reset your mind is, of course, number one, see that you have a problem, just like we said here. Without that, you won't make it no matter what you do. And the other thing is to the best thing that you can do, I guess the number one thing that I can say is you must see things from a different mindset. You must have different vantage points in order to see your problems, your successes, your goals from different areas, basically like a consultant coming into your business. You have to forever be a consultant in your own business. You must be able to do meta-analyses. You have to step back and see your business from this angle, that angle, from up here, from down here. So in order for you to do that, you have to understand where you are right now and how you don't see things that you're currently not seeing. Now, that's extremely difficult to do because you are who you are. You can't see things that are invisible to you. So in order for you to be able to do that, to get to that position, you have to do psychological tactics. You have to undergo different exercises that will show you, okay, I just did this marketing plan, or I just incorporated this name or this logo, or I came up with this process, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And see how a different person, step out of yourself, if you will, would have done it. And then a different person would have done it. So you really need to understand that the greatest thinkers in all of human history have always been interdisciplinarians. They have always been people Just like Rosamond E.M. Harding said, the musicologist who wrote The Art of Creativity, an Anatomy of Creativity, excuse me, back in the early 1900s. The most successful thinkers and doers have always been interdisciplinarians. You have to be an expert in your field, in your business, of course, but also in the field of thinking. You have to understand how psychology relates to your business. You have to understand how quantum physics relates to your mentality. You have to understand how resonance is the number one most important thing you can ever study in the world with your business, with your personal life. So you have to see all these things, and if I lay out all the foundations, all the sciences, it's going to sound completely overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. If you use these certain tactics, then you'll be guided how to reset your mind and see things that you couldn't see before.
That makes a ton of sense. I think I really like what you said of kind of being your own consultant. We've all been in those situations where we've been with a mentor, we've been with a consultant, and they've told us things that aren't like profound or new, but they're just things that like were right in front of our faces that we couldn't see before. And I think we have the ability to do that with ourselves if we just can kind of see it from that different vantage point, like you're saying.
Definitely. And the techniques, the strategies that you can do for your business is to pay attention to certain things that will reset your mind, such as let's take sound symbolism, something that's not really heard of in the business world. You want to make sure that you understand very well that certain sounds have certain connotations subconsciously to you and your family, to me and my family, to everyone on the planet, and I mean that literally. Everyone on the planet has a certain connotation, negative or positive or even neutral to certain sounds. So if you are a day spa, and I always give the example, if you're a day spa owner or a beauty spa owner, and you have two different people to choose from, you want an employee, and we're going to be very superficial, very prejudicial here, because whether you like it or not, you admit it or not, that's how people are. Let's say you have two applications in front of you of two different women. You know nothing about them except their names. You're far more likely to hire someone named Muriara for your beauty spa, your day spa, to elicit elegance, beauty, relaxation, rather than a woman who's named Gratanka. Because certain sounds that are negative, that are hard, are affiliated with negativity. Certain sounds that are fluid, more easygoing, are associated with positivity. It's the same thing with your business name, with your product name, with your service name. You have to understand these things, because all these things are variables that tie into one collection that will move yourself and your audience towards you or away from you.
That's really cool. That totally makes sense. I think a lot of people will connect with that. And I think to take it a step further with mindset, we're talking about that and how it can be changed. It can be basically programmed based on doing some of these tools and tactics. Can you talk about some of the advantages? Like where does this relate to success? I know you had a post recently about how, and you even just said it now, like the people who have success are the people who understand their mind and how it works. Can you talk about how does that translate into success and what does that look like?
Yes, definitely. How you really need to understand how your mindset is, because, I'm extremely scientific and in business and in my personal life. And I don't get into all this nonsense and fluff of, the New Age movement that's going around with all the flakes. I'm not saying that the New Age movement is bad or anything, but I'm talking about the flaky charlatans, where you just sit back and think positive thoughts and this law of attraction and stuff like that. Now, there's real science behind the law of attraction, all that stuff and mentality, but it's not what they profess it to be. They're just trying to make everyone happy and collect money and take advantage of them. So, but there is truth to that. Negativity will continue to draw negativity, and positivity the same way will draw positivity. So if you are going about your business and you're constantly negative and you're constantly positive, it's going to bring about those things. And we all know this. Everyone knows this. Just when someone is depressed, when you hear the phrase, I really hate cliches, I truly do, but just to give an example here, misery loves company. When someone is depressed, when someone is miserable, they have a low frequency in their body. Their body's internal frequency is low and it is slow. And you can see that. We all know this subconsciously. We just don't think about it. You see how they move. They move very slowly. They don't really care. Then you have the opposite effect where someone is very happy. They're excited. They move around very quickly. They jump around. They speak very fast. They have a high frequency, a very fast frequency. And that principle, if you understand frequency in physics and the principle of resonance, you'll do far better than if you don't understand it in life, business, and personal life. And if you use those things and you understand that, okay, if I take my mindset that I have right now that I've been stuck with subconsciously in this negative pattern or this negative pattern, and I reset it to a different pattern that attracts myself to more successes in my business, to greater revenue, to greater profit, you'll be able to see things that you could not see ever before. Not that you didn't see, but you physically couldn't see. And I mean physically based on physics and resonance. You seriously could not even have the chance to see because you were in a certain mindset that blocked your ability from seeing these resolutions of how to organize that marketing campaign or how to tap into your employees or how to get that revenue or that partnership or collaboration. Until that time, just like the alcoholic, you will never see those things because you're not in a mindset to see it. It's no different than the very famous example of you going to the African pygmy, the African tribe, and trying to explain the stock market to a group of villagers who only have a counting system of 1, 2, or many. That's it. They don't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They only have 1, 2, or many. There's no way in hell that you can explain the stock market to them. It's not their fault. It's just that they're in a position that they cannot have the mentality to understand it. We are also in that position, including me, where we can't understand or see certain things until we reset our mind, and then the possibilities are almost endless.
Yeah, I think that's really fantastic. And this is a timely conversation, understanding that, you know, this idea of reprogramming our minds and just starting to build habits. Like, I think what you're saying is, like you're saying, it can be overwhelming and it can be something that, you know, it's not just going to flip a switch. It's kind of building those habits. And what we're going to see now related to that is here, you know, actually by the time this goes up, it might be January, I don't know, something like that. We're around New Year's and a lot of people are going to make New Year's resolutions. They're like, this is the year I'm going to do whatever it is. And we all know, you know, the stories, like so many people that do it and they fizzle out, you know, in a month or less or more. You know, what is the psychology there? Like, where does that play into this psychological strategy? Why do we have this desire to get on track, and what keeps us from following through on things like that?
That's a great question. What keeps us getting into these new things, whatever the new thing is, whether it's clothing or fad or business, is just the endeavorship, just the desire to do something new, to go to that new frontier, to engage. Also, sometimes it's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the third principle of social belonging. Some people call it joining the bandwagon. It's pretty much the same thing. It can be peer pressure. It can be, well, everyone else is starting a business or everyone else has a blog or something that they're doing on the side, so I want to do it. So with every instance that we speak of, there's always a few different variables. It's never just one. But typically, it's some kind of striving for a new endeavorship, a new frontier. Now, unfortunately, when you get excited about something, you have a chemical reaction in your brain. We all know this, or most of us know this, but we don't think about it a lot of times. You have a certain chemical reaction. Now that reaction is going to die off after a certain while. It's no different than a new love. When you have a new love, you have certain chemical reactions that are being released and created in your mind, but eventually over time, it's going to dissipate. It's going to get diluted. In the world, what I love is interconnectivity is an absolute must. Interdisciplinarity is an absolute must. You can draw parallels from everything. You can say life is like a game of chess. Life is like a box of chocolates, I think Forrest Gump said. You can make all kinds of different parallels. Starting a business, continuing a business is like a relationship. It's like a marriage. You have these reactions in your mind, but eventually they're not going to last forever. So you have to be the impetus. You have to be the one to drive yourself forward to be successful for the next year, for the next 100 years, 50 years, whatever it is. Now, it's very easy in the beginning because you have that chemical reaction. You have all the just this different desire and giddiness, if you will, of, oh, I got a new business. This is going to be great. But if it doesn't resonate with you perfectly, if it doesn't sink in with you subconsciously, if you're not using sound symbolism, if you're not using the technique of pulling out your own imprint, your own subconscious association with why you started that business and how you see your own business, it will not last, and you will be another sad, everyone's a statistic even before you're born, actually, but you'll be another sad statistic that closes your doors, and you really need to understand how you can make the business resonate with yourself, and then make it resonate with your target audience for you to continue that chemical reaction, that impetus, that drive forward, so you can see yourself in a new mindset and say, yes, this is a new day. I'm happy to get up and start my business and continue my business success.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's the ongoing motivation that's really powerful, because it's not just New Year's, but we've all, read a book that got us really excited, or been to a conference got us really excited, and then to maintain that is where real power happens. So I have a couple more questions. One that really I think is important. It comes up a lot on this podcast, and entrepreneurs think about a lot, and that has to do with the subject of fear and how much that can be limiting and debilitating for entrepreneurs, and this fear of failure, or fear of what if this doesn't work out. And I think, when you are able to program your mind, I think you can really take control of some of that, or channel that fear in the right direction. How do you approach that in your studies and how you work with entrepreneurs?
Well, fear is something that it sucks. I really hate fear because I truly am a humanitarian, and it hurts me very deeply when I see someone not successful in whatever means, in this case in business. And the good thing about fear is that it's a false entity, if you will. Mm-hmm. It doesn't exist. It only exists in your mind. Now, we're not talking about the obvious ridiculous stuff like, jumping out of an airplane, the physical fear and all that, but the fear of setting up a business. It really helps you if you first realize that there is not a person on this planet, all the greatest thinkers, all the greatest doers, the Tony Robbins, the Donald Trumps, the Dr. Joe Dispenzas of the world, all these different people, they all operate every day with fear. Some to a greater degree, some to a lesser degree, but fear is nothing more than a smoke screen. All it is a very good smoke screen to keep you in the position that you are already in. Now, that fear, it stems from going back to your self-schema. It stems from the mindset that you already have. If you grow up and you are around a lot of people, or you hear stories of a lot of people starting their own business and they fail, you're going to have a drastically more debilitating mindset that's not your fault, but it's just put there because of your environment, your experience. Then someone who has grown up in an area that has a different mindset, a different experience, where most of the people that started businesses are successful. So it's all a matter of perspective. Everything in life, whether it's business, if you're a student, your education, your personal life, it is all a matter of perspective, because everything is accomplishable by you, by me, by all of your listeners. We can all do the same things. Some to a greater degree, some to a lesser degree. But what stops us, or what helps us continue or begin, is our mindset. If we don't see that the fear is there, okay, fine, but go run into it. Beat the hell out of it. Go forward and run into it. Scream as you're running forward, and know that it's nothing more than a smokescreen based on your experiences that you've had in the past, because 50 people who started businesses and failed. 50 people who went to college and they didn't get your degree. Continue forward anyway. Reset your mind and see how this is just a facade. It's not true. It's not going to hurt you. As a matter of fact, it's going to do the opposite. So if you readjust yourself, if you reset your mind, if you use these psychological principles, these principles of resonance, of neuroscience, of linguistics, psycholinguistics, all these different things, I guarantee you will have a drastically much more powerful tool in your mind that you have built, rather than the status quo out there that's struggling in their business.
Yeah, that's really, really good stuff. That was I love to think about that. And two key points that you bring up, you really hit home, is just that, number one, the fear is not a real thing. It doesn't exist. There's nothing behind that. I think that's huge for people to understand. And then the second one I thought was really important too, is that you look at other people who have had this great success or done these amazing things, and we as outsiders might think they don't have fear. Like, they just walk in and they own the day every day. But pointing out, like, they have that too. And it's not eliminating it, it's knowing how, what to do with it. I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely. And one thing that can help you, if you are of that mindset, what you just said, you look at people and you say, man, they don't have fear. They're doing great. They're successful. One thing that will really help you, that you can do right now, after you finish this podcast, go and look up some successful people and do some searches of their fears or their doubts or their failures, and you'll see it's very refreshing to come across the Donald Trumps, the Tony Robbins, the Dr. Joe Dispenzas, all these different people. It's very refreshing to come across the fears that they had in the past and how they almost stopped, how those fears almost stopped them, and the fears that they have even today. I know there's one New York Times best-selling author who does conferences. I think he's in his 50s, and he does speaking engagements. And even today, right now, as I speak with you, as your listeners are listening to this show, even today, he still talks about how when he's booked for events, and this guy's a millionaire, he's huge, when he's booked for events, he still goes to those events, and until he speaks, he says he still has doubt. He goes to the events and he says, why am I going here? No one's going to listen to me. This is boring. They're not going to understand it. I'm not making this up. He's actually said this. So it's totally reassuring to hear these magnets, these titans of the business world, of your discipline, whatever you're doing, are also feeling the same thing. The only difference is that they understand that the fear is nothing more than an entity of smokescreen, an entity of falsehood. And as soon as you reset your mind so you can understand that and run towards it, you will understand that, okay, I can do this. I can accomplish the same thing. You must first reset your mind so you can see these things before you can do that, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is refreshing to just realize, like, everybody has that. I think that helps a lot. And so, man, this has been awesome. There's so much to think about, so much I think people can take away. And I think you provided some practical things people can do right now. And I know you're doing more to help people, and you have a course coming out here for the new year. So can you tell us more about that? I think people listening to this might definitely be interested in seeing how they can learn more directly from the stuff you're putting together.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. The course is going to launch on January 1st, so it's perfect to sync in with those New Year's resolution. Your business is doing terrible, or it's doing good, but it's not at the level you want it to be at. You want to make sure that you reset your mind so you can see certain things, that you use interdisciplinary methods and thinking so you can come up with those ideas to push forward your business in whatever way you want to. So this course, it's going to be online, accessible 24/7. It's a recorded course with videos, with scientific data. Now, it's going to be, it's going to be quite in-depth. It is not for the person who's lazy. It is not for the person who doesn't take their business seriously. It's going to be a course that's in-depth, that is quite detailed, that is very heavy in the sciences, but it's very gentle in that it guides you precisely how to do certain things, how to reset your mind. There are quizzes. There are different supplemental material. There are videos, like I said, of course, where I guide you, okay, this is a tactic you need to use. You need to understand this. You need to understand how you've been missing out on this. And at the end, you actually come out with a different mindset that you couldn't even see before. And for a limited time, I'm actually going to have the first few enrollers, the first few students, have a free consultation call with me before they begin and after they begin, just to make sure in the beginning how I understand what they're looking for and how to guide them through that course, and then at the end how they can continue using those things throughout their life in that course. And because it's the first course that I'm launching online, in the very beginning it's going to be offered at a much lower price than when it's raised later.
That's awesome. And we can find that at drhermansjr.com.
Yes. And there's a blog that I do, drhermansjr.com/blog. It's also a link on the website, and it has all the information. And it's also got a lot of tools if you want to get into the course and just dive in and help to reset your mind for your business, or you just want a few different tools, sign up for the newsletter, the blog, and I release a lot of tools, a lot of tips that help you to do that as well. It's not as in-depth as the course, of course, but you can at least get started.
Excellent. Well, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time. I will also have the links at TREPXGroup.com with this interview so people can check it out. But this has been a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing all this.
Thank you as well, Mickey. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, you have a great day, and we'll all check out the course and all you have going on.
You as well. Thanks, Mickey.
Thank you for listening to the TREPX Podcast. For more episodes, interviews, and business growth tools, please visit TREPXGroup.com.